Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my Magicka Templar build for the Scalebreaker patch. I know I've been teasing this build for quite a while, and well, I'm finally dropping the build video for you guys. This build is just nuts. I mean, this is the patch of Magicka Templar. It is, you know, in my opinion, the strongest thing in PvP right now, and we are playing it, and we are playing a powerful build on it. We have got insane firepower, just tons of AoE damage. We can just put out so much pressure, not only to a single target, but to a large group as well. We've got incredible sustain and amazing mobility. And you know what? For 20k HP, we are much tankier than you would think, and that is all due to the really strong Eclipse skill that Templar now has. It allows us to run really low HP and still have quite a bit of bulk while still giving us an amazing ability to CC opponents as they zerg up on us. So it's a really great anti-zerg tool too. And last but not least, we are playing through the biggest dot meta that we've ever been in, and Templar has the best purge in the game. So Magicka Templar is no exception. This build is just performing incredibly well this patch because it is in the right place at the right time. Let's take a look at that build, guys. So, to begin, we are a Wood Elf on this Templar. Now, Wood Elf is not an ideal race for a Magicka Templar, but it's actually not that bad, and there's a few reasons for it. The first big reason that Wood Elf isn't bad is that 10% movement speed after we roll dodge. We have got really high stam recovery, as you can see here on this build, so we can roll a lot on this build. So it allows us to stack quite a bit of extra speed because we picked Wood Elf, and Wood Elf uniquely is going to have a faster mist form than the other classes for that reason, and we use a lot of mist on this build. So I think Wood Elf is a great choice for that reason. And of course, we get penetration on the roll dodge too, and that's spell penetration. So Wood Elf gets some damage bonus to Magicka. The stamina recovery portion is, of course, great for any build in PvP to have stamina sustain. And then the max stam is also great for PvP because it gives us more stam to work with on this build. So Wood Elf, not a terrible option. In fact, for this build, I would say it's actually a good choice. Now, you could do this on a Breton or a High Elf. These are going to be your other two obvious Magicka race choices for a Magicka Templar. And they, of course, are going to give you passives that are a little bit better suited for a Magicka build. But because of that, you're going to have to make up for the lack of stam sustain and stuff like that by changing up the build a little bit, depending on the race that you pick. So I think that Wood Elf is a close bet behind these ones, to be honest. But the other choices are probably a little bit better for upfront combat. But at the end of the day, man, that bonus speed, I think, is very valuable in PvP. So it's an attractive option for that. Now, taking a look at our stats, we have got pretty decent max mag, 32.6k max mag. Now, Templar normally doesn't sport a massive Magicka pool, and we don't have a huge mag pool on this build. 32.6k is not awful. We've got a lot of spell damage to go with it, and we'll see that when we get there. 20k HP. Now, this is very low, and you can change up the food on this build to run more HP if you're not comfortable with running this little HP, but listen to this. Seriously, Magicka Templar can get away with it this patch. The healing that you get from the Living Dark Bubble is honestly so freaking strong. Like, I'll fully buff up so you guys can see the tooltip on this thing. 3,000 health every 0.5 seconds is our tooltip on the Living Dark when we take damage. So having this 20k HP is actually better than it looks, because if we get attacked, we are guaranteed to heal right away from that first incoming attack. And because it's on a half-second cooldown, most of the time we're going to get at least 2 healing ticks before the combo is done that kills us. So we can reliably say we have more like 23 or 24k HP as long as we keep our Living Dark buff up. But if that buff is down, we are very squishy. So we have to keep that buff up, which is important. Now, the stamina, 14.4k. This is absolutely fantastic, I think, for Magplar. We're going to do a lot of work with our stamina on this build, so having that high stam pool, I think, helps quite a bit. Another reason why Wood Elf is a good option. If you're not Wood Elf, you'll have lower stam here. As long as you have the recovery, you can get away with around 13k stamina, but I wouldn't drop it much below that for this style of Magicka build. Now, our Magicka recovery and our stamina recovery, both are great. We're going to buff up with the potion so you guys can see our buffed up stats. Of course, Our mag recovery is 2,259. On our back bar, it goes up to almost 2,500. We have the rune as well. So we are sitting at just shy of 3k Magicka recovery on this build, which is absolutely fantastic. Of course, the rune sustain portion of it gives us mag sustain back when we're in stuff like Mist Form and when we're blocking with our Frost Staff. So a little bit better sustain than even 3k would suggest. Our health recovery is very low, not important at all for this build. We are a vampire, so that's why it's so low. And then our stamina recovery coming in at 1,300. This is very important, I think. Of course, you have to have the stam sustain on any build, but this build especially because we can do so much dodge rolling and so much sprinting, so much stun break. We got a lot of stam to work with, and the way that this build plays, you're going to need this sustain, I think, for it. So there you go. Now, our spell damage on this build is pretty decent. I'm not going to lie. We've got 3,368 spell damage. We have also got War Maiden as well as the Seducer infused back bar. So fully buffed on this build, we're sitting at just shy of 4.5k spell damage on the Templar. And paired with our 32.6k Magicka and all of the offensive buffs that we can get our hands on, we've got quite a bit of firepower on this spec at 50% crit as well, so a nice high crit rate. This not only is going to provide us with good firepower, but it's also going to be great for our outgoing healing as well. We have absolutely fantastic burst heals. You can reliably expect to get 10 to 14k crits on your Honor the Dead on this build. And at 20k HP, man, that plus one of your healing regen ticks, and you're pretty much full health every time you use Honors. So you have a really strong healing kit thanks to this spell damage as well. Now, the physical spell resist on this build is not too terribly great. When we stand in our rune, we've got 23k spell and 20k physical resist, and then when we exit out of it, we've got 19k physical and 21.5k spell resist. 2,333 crit resist. This is a little bit shy of where I want it to be at. We actually don't have as much impen as I would like to run. I would like to have at least one more impen on, and that would put us around 2.6k crit resist. The defensive stats aren't crazy important, to be honest, especially this patch. There's so many dots. Going super bulky is not going to save you from the dots as much as high healing power will, so that is why, you know, we don't really need it, especially for this patch. Purging and healing ourselves is a way better counter than trying to bulk things out. The crit resist, of course, is always important for that incoming burst, though. Now, taking a look at our buffs here, we've got Vampirism, very important. We use Mist Form for this build, so it's an absolute must-have. You can try a build like this without Mist Form, but it is much better with Mist Form, so that's why I would highly recommend you do it as a vampire. We have the Apprentice for the Mundus. This is for the increased spell damage that it gives, you know, just to buff up that damage. Very nice. And then finally, for the food, we have got the Ice Cream food, and this is a very good food. There's, of course, the stamina equivalent, which is a little bit better, but the mag equivalent gives us max mag and mag recovery. Both important stats for the build, definitely. Now, this food is essentially our option that forgoes the max HP. You could go for the Witch Mother's Potent Brew or the Artaeum Takeaway Broth if you guys want to go for the HP option. You, of course, will have a little bit less firepower and a little bit less sustain. So it's just how you want to play the build. I would recommend if you're starting this build out, try it with more HP, and then work your way to this food as you get more comfortable playing the build and you feel like you need a little bit more sustain to make the build work. So there you go. I really like this food, though. It's really cheap and really easy to get your hands on, so yeah, fantastic for this build. Now, of course, the potion that we're running on this build is the Essence of Spell Power. We have no buff coverage outside of our potion for these, so we definitely need these. Major Sorcery, Major Prophecy, and, of course, the Magicka Recovery buff, very important. It would be nice to have the Stam Recovery buff, but our Stam Sustain is already so great, so we don't need to worry too much about that. Now, taking a look at the gear that we're running on this build, guys, we're starting off with the Grothdar set. Now, this is a set that I have never run on a build in the past, but it makes a lot of sense for this build because we have so much AoE pressure. Max Mag, which is great for our damage and healing, and then when we deal damage, we have a 10% chance to create the lava pool that swirls around us, dealing 2.3k flame damage to all enemies within 8 meters of us for every 1 second for 5 seconds on the 10-second cooldown. We have got nothing but an AoE kit full of undodgeables, so much damage, so much spam to put out on this build. So Grothdar is going to pair in really nicely with that. So in the past, I would actually run Slimecraw here for the Minor Berserk, but we have the Minor Berserk coming from somewhere else, so we don't need to run Slimecraw on this build now, and it opens up running Godplar just to give us that bigger AoE burst. And you guys will see in the footage, we've got a lot of AoE pressure, and we can reliably get Godplar to proc because of the kit we're using as well. Now, taking a look at the next set, we got Amber Plasmon, and I've talked about this set so many times on mag builds. This is one of, if not my favorite Magicka set in the game, because I love max stat sets, and this is the best. We get 500 recovery, 250 Magicka, 250 stamina recovery on this set. There's no other set in the game that gives you that much sustain in the 5-piece, or that much max stat in the 5-piece just unconditionally. So a very, very strong set, and we just use it for our sustain. This paired with our Wood Elf gives us more than enough stamina sustain for our Templar to perform really well in PvP. And the mag recovery, of course, we need too, so really nice stuff. And then the 2, 3, 4 piece is also great. Amber Plasm sporting the max Magicka, the spell damage, and the spell crit. Just probably one of the best 2, 3, 4 pieces you can get on an offensive set, so I really, really like that. Now, the next set that we have is, of course, War Maiden, and we talked a little bit about this earlier. Spell crit, max mag, spell damage, and then 400 spell damage on the 5-piece. Now, this is a really good damage set, and we only have it on the front bar swap here because that is, of course, where all our damage is. This build has got 100% magic damage outside of our Frost Staff, and we're not using the Frost Staff to set any kind of super huge combos. So, yeah, War Maiden is pretty BIS for this kind of build, just to give us that raw outgoing damage power. You could always go with the Spinner set here if you want to go for the penetration route. Both are going to perform, I think, about the same. If you guys have thoughts on which one's better on the Templar, please let me know what you guys think. I think War Maiden is an especially good set because Templar gets both the major and minor spell damage buff, so we get a lot of extra damage, and it gives us really nice tooltips, especially when we get the Minor Berserk proc going too. Now, the last set that we have is actually the Seducer set, and I have this on the back bar with Magicka recovery. We have Mist Form, and this is a Frost Staff, so we actually probably only get around 60 Magicka recovery throughout the course of actual gameplay on this back staff. That's not terrible, but, you know, we don't get a lot out of it. The reason I went with mag recovery is because we have so much stam sustain already, we don't need more, and the only other good option for the Frost Staff back bar would be, like, physical or spell resistance, probably physical resistance for this build. So if you're a Wood Elf, I would recommend the mag recovery or even physical resistance for the 2-piece on your back Frost Staff. Now, if you are not a Wood Elf, you definitely want to put the stam recovery here. This will help make up for the fact that you're not a Wood Elf and you need that extra stam sustain. And you can, of course, switch out some of your glyphs, etc. to just make your sustains feel more comfortable. But having the stam sustain on your back bar is just better all around. We just didn't need it for this particular race spec that I had. But I did want to tell you guys that you have the flexibility to make the options there. Now, taking a look at the traits on this build, the staff, of course, is infused with the weapon spell damage. It's really nice to have this infused enchant on the ranged weapon. The ranged weapon, of course, is going to allow you to get the enchant to proc a whole bunch, much more than if you're using only a melee weapon, so very important for that reason. And then on our front bar, we have got Nirnhoned and Precise, and this is exactly what I wanted for this build. Now, I didn't go the huge penetration route for this build because I just wanted to have some nice raw healing power. So Nirnhoned Precise, great for that mix of spell damage and the critical, of course. Nirnhoned, so great for our primary weapon, just going to give us that bulk spell damage increase on this build. And then the Precise is not too terribly bad either. Now, I do have the shock damage enchant and the magic damage enchant that restores Magicka. I actually am not running what I would want here. I would recommend you run a vulnerability poison. A poison that only inflicts minor vulnerability on your opponent. I think that would be pretty BIS for this build. I'm going to play this build a little bit with it after I release this build video for you guys, so I'll let you know how it goes. Now, for the jewelry, we have got 2 Swift and an Arcane. Ideally, this should actually be infused, so we get more spell damage. That will be much better for the Templar because we, of course, get the major minor spell damage buff. So we get a little bit more than the Arcane there. But these 2 are definitely a Swift. If you're not a Wood Elf, I would recommend 3 Swift, and then you change your enchants and stuff accordingly to make your regens match. The 3 Swift will also help make up for the fact that you lose the 10% movement speed from Wood Elf. The movement speed is very important for a build like this. I know a lot of people who have not tried Swift on a build might be a little hesitant to give this a shot. Trust me when I say your survivability increases exponentially as you become faster in PvP. Even though you give up that little bit of extra damage and healing, it is well worth the additional mobility. You're just going to stay alive longer, and you're going to have better opportunities to actually kill and heal yourself. So I would definitely say you want to run the Swift on this build, especially if you're going to play it open world. If you want to duel on a build like this, I mean, our kit's not really designed for dueling anyway, but you could do it because, well, Magicka Templar is just freaking strong. Then you could go full infused. And that would be the glassiest option. But I think the Swift is definitely the best way to go. At least 2 Swift on the Wood Elf, 3 Swift if you're not a Wood Elf. Now, the enchants here are all spell damage and 1 Magicka recovery. Definitely go all spell damage on these 2. The Magicka recovery, like I said, depending on what race you pick, you'll change what you're going to run for your enchant here. It'll be Stam recovery if you're something like a Breton. Now, looking at our gear here, I don't have the ideal traits I want. Ideally, I would have 5 impenetrable and 2 well-fitted, or even 7 impen on this build, just to give us the bulkiest option possible. I think the well-fitted impen combo, though, is just the way to go. I have a sturdy divines on, so just a little bit wonky. The sturdy's not terrible because we do have the frost staff, though. And then for the gear enchants, we have gone with a majority of the tri-stat Hacky Joes. Now, here I actually have a max mag and a max health, just to give us a little bit of HP that we needed. I think on a Wood Elf, if you're running the same food that I am, definitely go with all tri-stat Hacky Joes. It gives you all the max stat you need, the stamina, magicka, and the health, and you need to have at least 20k HP on this build. If you are running the food that gives you a little bit more HP, you could, of course, switch these out for just max mag enchants. Now, keep in mind that you'll have a little bit less max stam to work with. Ideally, I think tri-stats is the way to go, just to give you the maximum amount of resource you can. Alright, so let's take a look at the skills we're running on this build. We're going to start off on our dual wield bar, which is, of course, our primary offensive bar here. The first skill that we have is Puncturing Sweeps. Now, I know this may come as a shock to a lot of you guys because I have very rarely played a build that uses jabs or sweeps, but when I do, it's usually Magplar, and it's because the Magplar jabs heal you, which first of all makes them a lot better to use than the stamina one, just in general, because, well, you can survive better while using it because it roots you in place. We are a speedy build, but this is such a powerful attack, especially on the Magicka Templar. The fact that it heals us and deals AoE damage and heals us for the AoE as well is very important. It allows us to put a lot of pressure on a group and even put some sort of sustained pressure while the group fights back, which you'll see in the footage. We can't do it a ton, but when we do, we can really, really capitalize on that heavy pressure and just allow the jab healing / damage to heal us through that offense. Now, the next skill that we have is Toppling Charge. This is your primary stun for the build, and it's just fantastic. I mean, not only is it an Adric Spear skill, so we can proc the Burning Light off of it, and not only does it stun your opponent, and it's our gap closer, but it sets them off balance. That is a massive damage increase on your opponent to set them off balance like that. It's just going to allow our entire combo to deal a lot more damage if we start it with the Toppling Charge. Now, the next skill that we have is Camouflage Hunter, and this may come as a bit of a shock to you guys. We don't need this for anything other than the minor berserk that it gives us when we attack from the flank. To be perfectly honest, the stealth detect on this isn't even worth it because we have tons of AoE. Our Solar Barrage is a way better stealth detect than this anyway, and it's very expensive to use this on a mag build. But that passive slot for the minor berserk, all we have to do is get beside someone and land a crit, 50% crit rate with all of the AoE that we have a very high chance of proccing this minor berserk when we use this build. And yeah, it's a fantastic passive slot. To be honest, this is worth more damage than slotting the Mages Guild skill line here. So there you go. That's why we've got it. Now, the next skill that we have is Honor the Dead. This is, of course, our primary heal for the build. We're going to buff up so you guys can see the tooltip on this bad boy. We've got a 14k Honor the Dead. Absolutely fantastic for the Magicka Templar. This, of course, becomes stronger as our health drops. 50% crit rate. We get 60% of the cost back if we heal ourselves while below 75% HP over 6 seconds. Yeah, pretty much one of, if not the best burst heal in the game, and Templar does it so well. This paired with Mist Form, having Mist Form plus an incredibly strong burst heal is an incredibly good combo for PvP. Especially this patch with all the dots, you're going to come out of Mist and need to get into your Honor the Dead fast out of that swap, so it's nice that we got a big heal there. Now, the next ability we have is Solar Barrage. And this is a really nice skill. The AoE pressure that it puts out is quite good, I'm not going to lie. Decent tooltip on it, 2,500 damage every 2 seconds. It is an 8 meter radius Really nice stuff, and the fact that it has such a huge radius, and now when you use it, it pulses right away when you activate it. So the fact that it does this and has such a big radius makes it an incredibly good stealth detect as well. I can't count the amount of times on this build that I was chasing down a Nightblade and the Solar Barrage just kept pulling him out of stealth as soon as I got on top of him with the Toppling Charge. So really great skill for this build. Absolutely fantastic AoE pressure, and just fitting into the AoE kind of abilities that we're going for. If you want to take a little bit more single target approach with this build, you could definitely go for the Magicka morph of Backlash here. It's just going to offer you a little bit more single target pressure, but you give up that AoE pressure. So it's up to you what you want to do here, and you give up a bit of that stealth detect, but we got a lot of AoE anyway, so it's kind of up to you guys what you want to do. I like the Solar Barrage because I play predominantly solo against a lot of players. Now, the next ability we got is, of course, Crescent Sweep, and this is our ultimate for the build, and you guys know why we have this skill here. It's such a strong skill. We can't deny it. Crescent Sweep is absolutely glorious. 11k tooltip on it, 60% bonus on that, 17k tooltip on our Crescent Sweep, plus the Burning Light, plus the 4.4k pulse every 2 seconds. I mean, we don't even have the Minor Berserk. We don't even have our enchant on the back bar up. We have got an absolutely monster Crescent Sweep on this build. This build here, slash Magicka Templar in general, this is going to be one of, if not the hardest hitting Crescent Sweeps that you'll see in Cyrodiil this patch. And yeah, this is probably the best single target burst ultimate in the game right now, and the reason for it is that you can cancel it. All of the other good ultimates now have the cast time attached to them, and it makes them freaking terrible for single target gameplay. So that is why I think Crescent is so good this patch. Such a strong burst ult, and allows us to keep up excellent pressure afterwards as well. Now, taking a look at our back bar, we've got Race Against Time. And Race Against Time is here for that buff coverage, the Major Expedition, the Minor Force, and of course that removal of snares and immobilization from us. Now, we have Mist Form as well, which is going to be a good option for the snares and immobilization, and it gives us Major Expedition. This patch, however, when you cancel Mist, the Major Expedition goes away. So we don't have access to the Expedition outside of Mist unless we slot Race Against Time this patch. And honestly, we do want to use Mist Form on this build, but Mist Form is not the skill that you want to spam like crazy. It's what you want to use to position yourself, and you want to do as much fighting out of Mist as you possibly can. So that's why we've got Race Against Time, for those times that we're out of Mist, and then that crit damage bonus, very important, especially for a damage build like this one. Now, the next skill that we have is Living Dark. We talked a little bit about this before. The healing power on it is amazing. 3k health when we buff up every half a second. That's 6k health a second. It can crit. Yeah, man. This shuts people down. And if that amount of healing power isn't enough, if your opponent uses direct damage against you, it will immobilize them for 3 seconds. So yeah, really, really good ability. I honestly don't know what to say past that. It's a really good ability, especially against a lot of players. The immobilize that it offers is fantastic. Even on a one-on-one, it allows you to get around the side of your opponent so you can get that crit bonus on your front bar better. Yeah, honestly, this skill I think needs to be toned down a little bit. I think the healing on it is maybe okay if it didn't immobilize as often as it did. Or, you know, I don't know. I think there maybe needs to be put a cooldown on the immobilize, because XV1, this actually really shuts down a lot of opponents. And I don't normally advocate for a skill to be nerfed in a build video, but yeah, this thing's kind of overperforming. We are playing the best class in this patch right now, and this is part of why Templar is so good. So there you go. Really good skill nonetheless. I do like that they went this approach with it, and my only like super huge gripe with it in my use is that it's a little bit too strong, and on top of it, I would love to have a different animation than the other eclipses, because when I have Living Dark on myself, I can't tell if other people have put eclipses on me. So to change the animation on this would be really cool. Maybe make my character look like black, like the Living Dark or something would be kind of neat, and have that kind of like black fire effect or whatever that it has. Now, the next skill that we have is Elusive Mist. This is so important for the build. This is going to be your get out of jail free card. Not necessarily. I mean, it's not going to save you from everything, especially in the dot meta. You will get melted through your Mist, but this is the best kit that we literally have to counter it. Mist Form is going to allow you to get away so that you can purge and heal yourself up. It's going to make you immune to the stuns and immobilize. Very important for PvP. And of course, you take much less damage while in Mist Form. Now, while you're in Mist, your mag recovery is cut off, so that's something you got to keep in mind. But, you know, If you've used Mist before, you know that. It's a very strong skill, and it's used for that positioning on this build. Now, the next skill that we have is Extended Ritual, and this is definitely a really good skill this patch. Extended Ritual is a must-have. We're in a dot meta, man. Removing 5 negative effects is so good, and on the Magicka Templar, we can actually spam it, and this is why I think Magplar is absolute top tier this patch, because it has the best purge in the game, and it can spam the crap out of it. And that's it. That's literally it. This is going to save us sometimes. Honestly, you still get melted. The dots are insane, but it'll save you sometimes, but you need this patch. The heal over time on it, of course, is really nice too, and the synergy for your friends, really good as well. Now, the next skill that we've got is Channeled Focus. This is going to be your primary armor buff, of course, giving you the physical spell resistance buff. While you're in the rune, you get a little bit extra armor too, and you get the 240 Magicka every 1 second, the equivalent of 480 Magicka recovery, and this recovery continues to go through while you're blocking with your Frost Staff and while you're in Mist form. So it's very important that we have this kind of external source of Magicka sustain, because it allows us to use our really strong defenses and still have a little bit of sustain coming in. Now, the next skill that we have is Temporal Guard, and this is the backbar ultimate of my choice, I think, just for a speedy build in general. It's so good. You teleport back to where you were 4 seconds ago. You gain minor protection for slotting this as well, and when you teleport back, you get the resources that you had when you teleport there. It just allows you to get away from things that no other ultimate will save you from. With Temporal Guard, you can get away from 100 players. No other ultimate in the game is going to allow you to do that as effectively as this one. So that's why we've got it here. And then the minor protection on our Mist form and our block is really awesome. We do have a good minor protection uptime on the front bar, though, thanks to all the Adric Spear skills that we're using. All right, so taking a look at the champion points on this build. In the Warlord tree, we've got 44 just for the break free, very important, and then 2 in sprinting. We need to sprint and stuff, but the stam sustain's so good on this build. You might want to change these out a little bit if you're running this on not a Wood Elf, but the Wood Elf has such good stam sustain. I think focusing on the break free is definitely the way to go, especially because we use jabs. We will get stunned quite often when we're trying to go offensive. Now, taking a look at the Lover tree, we've got 64 Mooncalf and 64 Arcanist. This is the way to go. You need all the sustain you want. We don't really need heavy attacks for sustain on this build. It's really awesome. You can do heavy attacks to get a bit of mag back, but 2-3 heavy attacks in, you're full mag, so really not a good passive for that. We don't need the health recovery either, and we want the wind running passive for the extra recovery for our Magicka and the movement speed, so that's really nice there too. So yeah, there we go. Next tree, we've got the Shadow, 56 Tumbling and 40 Shadow Ward. Big focus on Tumbling because we need to roll dodge a lot, especially to proc our Wood Elf passives. Shadow Ward because we have that Frost Staff as well, and we block quite a bit on our front bar still. Blocking while you use your gap close to stun people is a very strong method to deal damage while not getting wrecked yourself. So definitely want to invest in these points here. Most of our points in the green tree just reflect sustain in the stamina department. Now, taking a look at the blue tree, we have got 50 Erosion, 50 in Elemental Expert, 51 Elfborn. Very even tree here. We got a 51% crit rate, so we don't really need to heavily focus on crits or anything like that. Really nice even tree, I think. It's a good way to go. And then, of course, the important passive we get is the Spell Precision for that spell critical. Arcane Well is nice, but you don't get a much sustain from this in PvP. This is more of a PvE passive than anything else. Taking a look at the Atronach, 31 in Shattering Blows and 81 in Master at Arms. Very important that we have the Master at Arms, I think, to give us that additional damage to just everything that we hit with direct attacks. We have a lot of direct damage, so we get a lot of extra damage out of this. Staff Expert, I put a few points in here, but the big important one is the Shattering Blow, because we don't do a lot of damage with our Frost Staff, and I wanted to have the Tactician passive for that off balance on our roll dodge, so we could just spam off balance on this build. Yeah, definitely the way to go. Now, if you guys don't want to do this, we do have the off balance attached to our stun, so you could just do 81 Master at Arms and then put the rest of your points over here and just give up the rest of these. It's up to you how you want to build it. I like the extra damage against shields, though, because, well, shield's OP. Now, moving on to our next tree, nothing in the Ritual, and then in the Steed, we've got 61 Ironclad, 10 Spell Shield, and 56 in Resistant. Big focus on Resistant Ironclad, direct damage, very deadly with our lower HP pool, so we want to make sure that we can soak that up. And then Resistant, also important to increase our crit resist on this build too. Spell Shield, also nice too, just for a little bit of additional spell resistance. In the Lady tree, we got 37 Hardy, 37 Elemental Defender to reduce our incoming elemental and physical physical damage we take. Nice even split there. A little bit in light armor focus, 30 points here to give us that physical resist that we're missing while wearing light armor. We still have higher spell resist though. And then in thick skin, we've got 16 points. I didn't put a ton in here, but I did put some because the dots are so strong. Even though we're on a Magplar and we can purge them, man, having a few points in thick skin feels like you need it this patch. And then in the Lord Tree, we got 23 quick recovery for a little bit of additional healing received. We don't need to go crazy with the healing received because our base tooltips are so high, though. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the build. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into that PvP commentary. We've got quite a few fights for you guys today, and, well, we got a lot of IC PvP footage because of the Imperial City event, and right off the bat, we've got a Zerg chasing us around this corner. We quickly put some huge bursts into that first player, bringing him down, and then we just go back through the group, and we put pressure into this next player here, getting good damage from behind here, but she's just going to reset her heals. I'm going to reset my buffs as well, and there you see the partial charged heavy into the stun there, into our ultimate, the off balance, everything, so much extra damage. And down that guy goes, and we're just going to jump on the last player there, hit him with the jabs, and he's going to go down as well. But right off the bat, just showing off that mobility, that firepower. This is everything that we advertised the build for. This guy here is just trying to take this chest here. We can't get this stun to go up the gap close there the first few tries, but we finally managed to get up there. We finish him off with the jabs, and we're just going to engage with the next few people in the sewer here. We go for the stun on this guy, hit him with the ultimate into the jabs, just way too much damage. The Grothdar, the AoE pulse from our solar barrage, and we just kite back behind the terrain here, get a nice big honor the dead. We're going to roll through this guy, and then we're going to hit him with the gap closer there into the jabs. Really nice combo to bring him down, and I just reset my buffs and my offensive skills. We open on the next player here with the stun into the ultimate again, and we go for the jabs. He goes for his block ultimate, but it's a little bit too late, and we just finish him through his block there, and we reset our buffs again, and we're going to engage with the yellow here. A nice stun there into the jabs. This guy just has no answer for the damage. That guy gets spiked down by the ultimate. We still have all the AoE pulses going. The last bit of pulse from our ultimate going off there too, and we finish off everybody except the last yellow player here. We reset our offensive buffs here. The meteor's coming down. I make sure to hold block as we gap close so we stun him, don't get stunned ourselves, and then go into the jabs to finish him off. Nice clean finish on that group there. And now we've got another yellow player coming up. We just bounce a few heavy attacks off him and rebuff here because we're a little bit lower on Magicka after all that offensive pressure there. And I decide to just continue to follow this guy here. We hit him with the stun, go for the ultimate, and then into the jabs, and he's holding block the enemy Templar and just spamming his heal. And I don't want to commit to the fight here because I know there's a lot more yellow coming out of this doorway. That's where they spawn. And look at this. I turned around for half a second and everybody got rezzed. Oh my gosh. So I'm not even going to try to re-engage with this because we've got a tail chasing us as well. And I'm just going to mist on out of here, just setting my heals down, setting my buffs as well, holding block on our Frost Staff bar to get as much damage mitigation as possible when we need it. And we managed to break line of sight from these guys. And I'm just going to keep kiting back. We get hit by a nasty stun there, but it's okay. We can just wait that one out and mist our way back up here. And I'm just going to throw my buffs down, drop off the edge again, and just drop through the middle here. Just doing a lot of back and forth kiting here to try to get a little bit of distance from these guys. But now we're very low on resource. I've got my offensive buff set. Let's see what we can do. We go for the ultimate off the gap close there. We finish that player off, and we're just going to reset our buffs again as we drop down. The yellow players seem to be sitting at the top there. Not all of them have dropped down, but we're taking a lot of pressure here. The Eclipse Bubble doing overtime to heal us there, going for a big purges as well. And oh my gosh, we're going to have to jump down, getting chased by too many yellow here, and just try to get that heavy attack off. We do manage to get the staff heavy attack off, and we're going to go back into the mist form and back into the tunnel here and just purge off those negative effects. There we see the Honor the Dead as well, and we're just hanging on with a bit of Magicka here, and we just need to break a bit of distance to try to get some resource back here. I try to go for the precog. Unfortunately, we get screwed by that, and I think the precog might have been the answer there. It might have taken us a little bit into the center of the Zerg, but good fight nonetheless. Now, for this next fight here, I actually wanted to showcase not only the firepower and the durability of this build, but the mobility of it and how you can use the mobility of a build like this to really turn fights that you wouldn't normally be able to take. I mean, this is a build that is fairly squishy, right? I mean, we have 20k HP, so if we get smacked too hard, we're obviously going to die. So a big part of playing a build like this is figuring out where to position yourself so that you can actually get those nice spike kills. And there you see we just managed to come up on the back end of the yellow group and get a huge damage ultimate on one of the players there, so we get a nice clean kill off there, and I'm just going to mist my way through the tunnels here, resetting my buffs and heals, and we're going to try to get the yellow to chase. So I sit on top of this little ledge here to get the yellow to come around the corner, and I gap close into them. Unfortunately, I pick a target who's right by the edge, so I fall off the edge after gap closing there, and I don't have the teleport ultimate up in time to teleport up. It was about a second too late getting my ultimate up there, so I'm forced to kite back around, and we're just going to come back around the ledge here using our speed to break distance on this group, and here we go. We go for the gap closer into the ultimate. We shifted our position behind the enemy group there. We go into our jabs, 2 players down, and our ultimate is back because we get the kills, and we're going to go for the next ultimate there, prevent this guy from rezzing. He actually stops rezzing before we hit him with the bash, and we're just going to reset our heals after taking the damage there, and we're going to re-engage. We stun the first player, stun the second player. Actually, he still had CC immunity, but there we hit him with another gap closer. He hits us with his stun. We're going to reset our buffs here, and we go for the partial charged heavy here into our gap closer. There's the ultimate into the jabs, and a massive spike to bring that guy down. And now we're going to drop down and fight the last 3. We managed to get a great split slash spike on this group, and we're going to put a lot of pressure into these guys at the bottom here. As soon as my buffs go down, I just come back around the terrain here, reset my buffs, and we're going to re-engage right away. Go into our ultimate, go into the jabs. We bring another player down. There we go for more jabs. Take a nasty meteor, but the jabs managed to finish that guy off. Such a powerful move against a rolling opponent. Honestly, especially against something like a Nightblade, this build is an absolute nightmare. And here you see we just managed to put the pressure in to finish the last guy off that stun. Really strong wipe against that group there, and really nice firepower from the Templar to take that home. I mean, the amount of damage that we do was really why we were able to do it. We just had the good positioning and then hit them with that really strong smack. This guy here is trying to go farm some Telvar. We are just in savage mode today. I'm not going to lie. I was just out there trying to get as many Telvar as I could. We got another player here. Looks like he's AFK, and yeah, normally I wouldn't kill the AFK player. Can you guys tell that I want the Telvar today? Oh my lord. We find another player here. He's just hanging out in stealth. And remember what I told you guys about the Nightblade and this build. Look at all that AoE. He can't dodge that. He just couldn't get out of that. There's no way for him to escape. We find one last player here. We just hit him with the stun into the jabs. Pick him for 8k Telvar. We're going to go bank that stuff. And finally, guys, for the last clip here, I got some pretty crazy combat against the guys who were trying to farm some Telvar here. So I hope that you guys enjoy the last clip. And without further ado, we've already picked up 2 kills on these guys. We go for the next gap close into the ultimate, picking up the 3rd kill there. We get on top of this guy with the stun as well. We're just going to heal ourselves up, and I'm actually going to target shift back up to the top here. We go for 2 stuns there with the double gap closer into the jabs, but we take pressure again from all of these yellow players. Just reset our offensive buffs here, and we go for the heavy attack, get a little bit of stamina back. Big damage on the group there. Big AoE splat. We bring another yellow player down there as we just kind of tank our way out and heal our way away from that. But now I'm very low on Magicka. Just go for that big heavy attack, purge off those negative effects, reset our Eclipse, and we gap close into this guy there. The first one actually hits his pet. The second one we get the stun, and we go for our ultimate into the jabs. We bring down the enemy sorcerer. We're going to reset our Eclipse, purge off those effects again, and we're going to charge back into these guys here. I don't get the gap close I want, so we just repurge, reset our buffs again. No rush if we don't have the buffs up, and there we see a nice gap close up top. A huge spike with the ultimate into the jabs, finishing 2 players off there, and we gap close into the next set of players here. Just so much AoE damage. Oh my gosh. And jabs, of course, heals us for 40% of the damage dealt. If we keep our Eclipse up and we keep jabbing, we've got so much pressure. Oh my lord, another ultimate comes down. These poor yellow, man, we are just cutting through them like butter. Templar is absolutely savage. We're just gonna reset our buffs here. I think that's all of them. Yep, that's all the yellow there. And, well, I'm just going to let the rest of the fight play out for you guys. At this point, I'm just thinking to myself, screw it. Let's just go as far as we can. I'm not going to back down. We're just going to keep pushing into this Bumblebee hive here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the build. If you did, hit that like button. If you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button. I create regular ESO content, so be sure to stick around for more. If you guys are interested in any live gameplay from me, you can check out a link to my Twitch down below in the description. We feature builds and we feature top 5 clips on the channel, so if you guys want to send anything into the channel to be featured, you can send that to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. We are sponsored by What the Fast. They're a VPN for gamers. They give me better ping to my favorite games, and they're free to try for the first 30 days. No credit card to sign up for that, so no harm, no foul if it doesn't give you guys what you're looking for. And last but certainly not least, if you guys really love the show and you want to help support it, you can always become a patron on Patreon. Without you guys' help, I would not be able to do this job. Seriously, it helped me get everything together. It helped me get the new computer as well. So thank you guys so much for supporting the stream. Thank you guys so much just for watching, and I hope to see you guys again next time. And yeah, this fight has been, well, insane. I don't even know what to say, but I have another variation of this build that I will be sharing with you guys in the next couple days, so look forward to that. Have a great night, everybody.